Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a realm where reality intertwines with the inexplicable, where the boundaries of reason dissolve into the shadows of uncertainty. Welcome to the political twilight zone. I am your guide through this enigmatic labyrinth, where politics and power take on life of their own. In this dimension, the threads of truth weave a tapestry of intrigue, challenging our perception of the world we thought we knew. In this world, nothing is as it seems, and the truth lies buried beneath layers of deceit. Prepare to venture where reason meets the unexplained, and where the unexplained might just be the ultimate. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Another weekend with me. I appreciate all of you spending a little time with me out there. It's required getting it right here on KNZZ and KGLN. We are, 1100 and 980 and 92.7 and 101. I always want to have checked that here because I'm 101.3. And, of course, on the inner tubes out there and on our podcast. So thanks for joining us. I was looking through some emails that I'd gotten, and it dawned on me that, and I really thought about this before, there's all this stuff going on with President Trump and his trial in New York. Aside from the outrageous nature of what goes on in the courtroom in the terms of the jury selection and just the kind of attitude from the court, it seems to be, that, everybody's talking about that, and there's a little bit of talk about the charges, but, so I looked it up, because I'd had a general idea, and the charges are even more ridiculous than the way the court's being conducted. And it's, I don't see how anybody is going to get charged with this and not have a problem with several different things. As you might probably know, he's got 34 felony counts, and they're falsifying business records. Business records? And what they are is that the payments that the Trump organization made, allegedly mislabeling them as legal expenses to mask their true purpose. All right. Sounds like a tax problem to me. Anyway, the statute of limitations on these things would have run out had it not been for some sleight of hand that the district attorney there, Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, tried to play by nailing this thing together with trying to make it into a felony and then also dragging in some federal charges. This was something that happened, during the first campaign. The statute of limitations for this kind of thing in New York is like 2 years. That's a little longer than where we're at now. But the way to get around that is to say that what he's trying to say, I'm not suggesting that it's correct or that any right-thinking person would buy into it, is that, one, he absented himself from the jurisdiction, and so that would toll the statute of limitations. That's something that's usually true, but in different kinds of cases. It's bizarre that they would be using it here, because mainly he was absent from the jurisdiction because he was the president. I don't think that would fly anywhere with anybody else to try and get past the statute of limitations. So that's out there. That's certainly an appealable situation. Also, he's nailing this together to try and get these things from a misdemeanor, right? Because he also can get a longer statute of limitations if he ties that financial records problem to another felony, to something that is a felony. So to do that, he's trying to nail this federal law in, that it's violating federal campaign finance laws. And he's prosecuting that under state law concerning business records. That's trying to go around issues related to federal jurisdiction. And also he's trying to do something, get past presidential pardons. Think about this for a minute. They're so worried that Donald Trump might win and could potentially pardon himself from whatever crazy stuff's going on out there. They're trying their darndest to keep these things as state crimes, which are not something that the president can necessarily pardon. Only federal issues for the most part. So that's how worried they are about him winning the election. It's a jurisdictional strategy. They're trying to avoid federal legal loopholes that could somehow benefit Trump. They're not really loopholes, I shouldn't say that, but the campaign finance violation from this supposed Stormy Daniels payment was turned down by the feds. the Federal Justice Department. And that's Merrick Garland's thing. And they turn anything down when it comes to somebody that's associated with Trump. So it shows how thin that is, that he's trying to prove that as a component of a state violation. That's a very strange way to do things, and I don't think that it's proper. Now, it's convoluted, I'll give you that, but I think it's clearly an attempt to bootstrap, to get past the statute of limitations and to make these things a felony. I'm just trying for the life of me to figure out how it got this far. You would think that after the charges were filed, somebody would step in and there would be some appellate court issue. So I don't know what's going on with it. I mean, these guys are just stretching the existing law regarding this business record falsification. Because normally those things require some clear financial deceit with an intent to defraud or cause substantial financial harm, is what it says in that, I think, in their statute. This application of this statute to campaign filings and business filing documents associated with that is pretty strange, and I couldn't find another example of it. And the statute of limitations thing, it's a big deal because they have a pretty good walk they're going to have to go on to explain how this didn't expire under the statute of limitations. As you know, statute of limitations creates a certain specific period of time that someone must be brought before the court for a criminal case and also for civil cases. And if you go past that, then those charges or those causes of action can't be brought unless there are some particular reasons for tolling them. And usually it's kind of hard to toll those statute of limitations because they're in there for a reason. And we saw this happen with the trial with the magazine writer, whose name escaped me right now, about her defamation suit. The civil statute of limitations would have ran out on that a long time ago. There would have been nothing to it, except that the state of New York passed a exception for 1 year that allowed all of these old claims, such as this particular type of claim, to be filed. There's a pretty good amount of evidence, I think, that it was almost particularly aimed at Donald Trump. I don't think I've ever really seen anything like that. Well, not, in the United States. I've not seen any place else, but I'm sure, someplace in, some Central American country, in the 60s that might have happened in that way, but I've never seen that before. Oh, now, they had a little problem with that because what happened? Well, when they opened the statute of limitations up, a bunch of other people came out of the woodwork and started filing claims against New York politicians, most of them Democrats. And they couldn't separate those people out. I mean, what they wanted to say was, whoa, wait a second. These are all Democrat politicians. We're obviously after Trump here. We don't want you bringing this stuff. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, they couldn't do that. But that's how they extended it. They extended that statute of limitations by a legislative action, as screwy as it was. That's not present here. They have to make some kind of argument that he was out of the jurisdiction and not available for prosecution. Really. So during this entire time, he didn't spend any significant time in New York. Could not have been served. Could not have been, That's a tough argument to make, too. But apparently it carries no weight with the court in this. It's bizarre. It's beyond strange. I think there's some real concerns about what the precedent this might set for political prosecutions in general. It's also, we can talk about the Georgia case as well, but trying to shoehorn these federal cases into a state statute that doesn't really apply either, to extend the statute of limitations and then make it a felony, that is a bridge too far. If this stands under some kind of appellate review, I don't know what to think about the jurisdictional legal system if they allow that to go on. It's scary. It really is. We'll be back. All right, folks, back again. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm taking some notes here because I wanted to raise a couple of issues here. One is that the assault weapons ban here in Colorado that we were talking about before is out of the House because, the House representatives there for, I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be doing, but they think it's going to save everybody because it'll reduce gun violence. Yes. Whatever that is. As I've said before, your guns, they get up in the middle of the night when you're least expecting it. They go out, they get drunk, they raise Cain, So, that's one of the reasons you got to put them in a safe. Well, the Democrats want to make sure that, you don't even have them to put in a safe. So, there you go. So, it's kind of passed out of the House, and it's gone to the state Senate. And the state Senate is probably the place where it has the most likelihood of getting stopped because the overabundance of Democrats is not quite as marked in that particular branch of our government as it is in the House. The House, it's, pretty much 2-1 in terms of Democrats versus Republicans. And there's an edge, a significant edge in the Senate, but not like that. And there's some state senators that have some relatively conservative pieces in their districts are a little more open to being talked to. So if you're interested in not having your firearms made illegal, your assault weapons, of course, all those scary assault weapons, if it's a black rifle, that's scary. If it has a pistol grip on it, woo, man, collapsible stock. And, of course, the main characteristic that shows that firearm is a weapon of mass destruction is a threaded barrel. Yes, a threaded barrel. That's one of the things in the bill, folks, for how you can identify assault weapons. So if you think you want that kind of law on the books, with the thinking from these people who, by the way, I use the word thinking in a way that is as open as it possibly can, and I still don't think they're thinking. But anyway, then that's going to happen. You got to get a hold of your state senators and let them know you don't want that. I don't know what else to say. If we don't, it's going to be really hard to get rid of it once it's on the books, because probably the only way in the foreseeable future we'd get rid of it is by a citizens initiative. And a lot of money would flow into the state from outside groups to stop that citizens initiative. And they'd also have to fight the number of people in the Denver-Boulder corridor over there that, are going to vote against changing that. They think it's a good idea. They don't know one thing about firearms, but they just know that they're bad. So that's who you're fighting. So the place to stop it is now. So get a hold of your state senator, if you want to see this thing not go anywhere. Because I don't know what Polis will do to it. My guess is he'll probably sign it. He might not, but my guess is he's probably going to sign it. So there we go. There's also another bill in Colorado. I don't know why we're getting like this. I hate this. This was a Senate bill, what was it, 2484, Senate Bill 24-84. And it was brought by a couple of Democrats. There you go. And it's called the Attorney General's Duties to Prevent Mis- and Disinformation. Do I really need to read any more about that? They want to create a state-sanctioned curriculum to facilitate productive and honest conversations about statewide and national issues. Well. Is that who you want in charge of setting curriculums for kids, people like that? So you can decide exactly what you want to have them hear, and the people that are deciding it are these characters? I don't think that's probably what you want, but that's also out there. That may have more trouble. There's been several of these bills across the United States like this to try and set up some governmental organization to fight misinformation or disinformation, according to this one. And, of course, we know what that means. It means to try and censor speech that they don't agree with. And they don't agree with a lot of things that most people think, most right-thinking people think anyway. So it can't possibly be a good thing. We're supposed to live in a laboratory of ideas here in the United States where people get to put forth their ideas and the public can reject them or accept them on their merits. And we trust our population to have enough intelligence to navigate that. Sometimes it doesn't work, but, that's kind of the idea. And this creeping I mean, I hate to call it creeping socialism, but that's kind of, it's beyond that, frankly, of the state interjecting itself in every facet of your life is not a good thing. And some of it we do willingly. I'm going to quote Gary Hart, who was a candidate for president and was the Colorado senator to the United States Senate. I'm going to say the word monkey business. That was the boat where he was photographed with Donna Rice, I think it was. Kind of had to make him drop out of the race. But he said one thing that I had to agree with. He said, if you want the government off your back, get your hand out of the government's pocket. That's very true. We accept the idea that the government now collects more and more money from us, particularly the federal government, takes it back to Washington, attaches all sorts of strings, maybe makes it a different color, whatever they're doing with it, and then you have to go along with whatever they say to get your money back, to use it the way they want you to use it. This is how we've gotten all of these ridiculous departments now. The Department of Education in the United States as a cabinet level, how did that happen? I mean, we're used to it now. But the idea that the federal government would be directly involved in some way with local educational standards would have been something that no one would have thought about 40 years ago. Why? Well, it starts when you start sending government money, and then the money they send back, and pretty soon, before you know it, people are trying to change their curriculums, try and change what they do in order to qualify for federal money. And when that happens, you lose control. And then what they started saying was, well, education is so expensive. I mean, we've spent so much money on it. It's so important. It should be a cabinet-level position. And that's how we got that. Same way we got the Department of Energy. Really, the Department of Energy, if you stop and think about it, what are they supposed to be doing? Do they generate any energy? No. Do they regulate and make it difficult for people to generate energy? Yeah, they do that. They're not a producing kind of entity. They just showed up. We never should have had a Department of Energy. Never should have had a Department of Education. Those things belong either in the competitive market for capitalism or to the states. I know it's a radical thought, but it's just, it's retrograde, really. It goes back to what the whole purpose of this thing was. Anyway, I'm sure that you folks out there have probably heard a little bit about this NPR, National Public Radio, which shockingly enough, I mean, sit down if you're, but don't, if you're driving, might want to pull over, that it's been found to be biased. That's right. They had a whistleblower come out and say it was very biased to the left. Really? However would you think that? I mean, I had to say all this news about it. I thought, who doesn't know that? But, yeah, and he sort of confirmed everything that we knew about. But the president and CEO of National Public Radio now has made some interesting comments in the past. Before she came to NPR, she was the chief executive for the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the nonprofit organization that operates Wikipedia. She was there for 2-3 years. And this is what she said about why she thought she should leave Wikipedia. She said, quote, "I've come to the opinion and the perspective that free and open was a way of looking at the world that was inherently limited relative to what we were trying to achieve." What does that mean? I mean, how is free and open, how is that a limiting concept? Free and open has the best of intentionality, but in the end, that free and open often end up doing, and particularly in the case of Wikipedia, was recapitulating. I don't know what that's recapitulating. Is that a word? Many of the same power structures and dynamics that exist offline prior to the advent of the Internet. One of the problems with Wikipedia is the way it relies on written tradition and reliable sources, she said. You see the exclusion of communities. I want you to listen to this. I'm not expecting you to make sense out of it. This is the lingo. You see the exclusion of communities of language because of the ways in which Wikipedia is based on reliable sources. The idea of a written tradition, which is particular to some cultures and not to others. The ways in which we ascribe notability. I could go on. I I mean, Elon Musk, when talked about the free and open thing, he posted that's literally the point of Wikipedia, what they were supposed to do. Now that one of the founders of Wikipedia, it's no longer with them, has been shocked at how politicized it's become. And we all know that. I mean, if there's a controversial topic or person out there, especially a person on the right or a topic on the right, you can go to Wikipedia and pretty much watch the thing being changed. And if it's changed back to, let's say, something that is a little bit more fair or actually true, it'll get changed again because of the way they allow editing to be done there and the people that are doing Wikipedia. So I appreciate this woman saying what she thinks. Now, it's very hard to understand because it's a lot of mumbo-jumbo. You know, the construct around power, elevated whose voices, all this kind of stuff. Radical openness really did not end up living in the intentionality of what openness can be. That's a quote from her. Does that make any sense? No. Think about that. We'll be back. All right. So we're back. And yes, I am a simple man, too. Some people would say a simpleton. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. Before we go on, I had some other notes here that I had passed over that I wanted to make sure. Since we're talking about firearms and, of course, Colorado earlier in the show, the compulsory gun insurance bill has gone to the Senate. Remember we talked about that? Yes. Passed out of the House Business Affairs and Labor Committee about a week and a half ago. So, yeah. Here's the thing about this, and this is just one of these examples of you can just feel them making stuff up about why they're doing it to hide why they're doing it. You know, it would require gun owners of the state to maintain a liability insurance policy that covers losses or damages to a person other than the policyholder who was injured on the insurance property as a result of an accidental or unintentional discharge of the firearm. How often do you think that happens? Well, actually, we kind of know that I think that people who are seriously injured from a discharge here, I wrote this down because it's another one of those things where you're thinking, what are we really addressing here? You know, what's the point? Where are we going here? I think it's something like 1 in 7,900 accidental discharges results in an injury. So, which I'm not suggesting that that's a good thing. I'm just saying, and who is usually injured in that? It's usually the homeowner or somebody that is the homeowner, you know, that's tied to them, a family member or something, God forbid. And this insurance wouldn't cover that. This is made in case someone is on your property and you accidentally or unintentionally, explain the difference to that to me, unintentionally, have a firearm discharge and they're wounded by it. Then they can have a claim against your insurance. How does that fix anything? How does that do anything towards, quote, gun violence? It just makes it more expensive to have firearms. And it makes another crime that you can commit by not complying. So that's another thing. And I expect that there's going to be some sort of prohibition against firearms ownership or something that'll come about if you violate all these laws that are coming down. You know, the one about having to lock your gun in the trunk of your car if you get out of it, firearms insurance. You know, those are compulsory. And they're not going to do any good. And what do you think they're going to cost? Well, most of the time, your liability insurance on your home, if you're homeowner and you have homeowners insurance, or if you have renter's insurance, which I would suggest, would cover, you know, something that was accidentally done on the property. And if there was an accidental discharge of a firearm, I think, you know, I'm not saying that, I'm not giving any advice here because I'd have to look at the policy, but that would be something to look at with that policy. Now, there's going to be things in the insurance policies that are going to exclude dangerous activities. You know, it's like, well, I got some homeowners insurance, but I didn't tell them that I had built a dynamite factory in my basement. But yeah, I didn't figure that was a big deal. Now that's going to be out. So yeah, we get that. But this stuff is just, oof. I mean, it's another way to lay a trap for people who don't do it. And somehow they find out about it, I guess. And then the next thing is it just makes everything more expensive. Everything to try and make firearms more expensive to own, difficult to own, and ammunition the same. That's the agenda here. I mean, I read some of the comments that these people were saying about why they were doing it. It doesn't even make any sense. The bill's opponents say that money gun owners would likely flout the law and unintentional shootings are rare. Yes, that is true. Yeah. Only 1 in 7,944 accidental discharges result in a death. 1 in 208, by the way, of intentional firearms wounds result in a death, which I thought that was kind of interesting, too. But this is what the state Dem that put this up there, the representative said. Iman Jodeh, Jodeh, I'm not sure if I pronounce it. People own guns. We don't want to infringe on that right. Well, then stop doing this. What we want to do is make sure that they are protecting themselves even more. And so by having this insurance, we are upholding their belief that they should own guns, that they have the right to own guns, and they can and should be responsible gun owners. Yeah, you feel like that, balderdash just washed over you there? Nothing to do with this, really. Just another way to make things more expensive. Also, is we have the bill moving forward that would put on the ballot. But thank the Lord for Tabor in the state of Colorado. You guys are listening in a different state. You need a taxpayer's bill of rights of some sort. By the way, don't let me forget, California is trying to do that referendum. Anyway, what we're looking at here is an 11% excise tax. We've talked about it before, but I want to bring it up again. 11% excise tax on firearms and ammunition. Now, firearms prices have gone up quite a bit. So you're going to add, say, a $600 firearm. You're going to add over $60 to it. Just to purchase it. Same thing. And you know what you get out of it? Zero. It's going to go towards some sort of effort to reduce gun violence. Now, when you pair that up with the other bill that is to require your credit card companies to have a special little code if you're buying a firearm or ammunition, this all starts to get a little 1984-ish. I mean, this is Big Brother moving into the room next to you. He's not just watching from across the street. He's living in the back bedroom, coming out and checking on you all the time. These things are bad bills because their motives are different than what they're saying they are. I mean, it's not that it doesn't happen sometimes, but this is so clear. And these characters, we're just trying to show they're responsible gun owners. They haven't owned guns. And really? So, guys, you need to call your state senators on this one, too. All these gun bills. Anyway, I want to make sure you knew about that. But I was recalling the idea that there is an initiative in California. Remember, California used to have some good initiatives. Prop 13, what was that, in the late 70s that controlled their property taxes? Good Lord, I mean, so they just piled other taxes on. But nevertheless, that was one of the things that helped get Ronald Reagan elected in California. But anyway, what I was going to say is that Governor Newsom, who, as you know, is a champion for our democracy. Yes, he is. You just ask him. He's a champion, and he's fighting against people who have this fascist sort of, mindset to try and control everything. And but oddly enough, the people that are gathering this signatures for this bill in California, because for gosh sakes, I mean, you're not going to get the legislature to pass it there. My gosh, they faint dead away if you even ask them about it. But they're trying to get the signatures together to put it on the ballot. And Newsom and some of his cronies, I think the word crony is very applicable here, have gone to court to try and get the courts to stop them putting it on the ballot, because they're saying that, well, that's such a tremendous change that it really amounts to a constitutional amendment. It's not just an initiative. And it's really a fuzzy legal argument just to try and keep it off the ballot. I thought you loved democracy, Gavin. You know, people voting on things, go your own way, sort of like, the Fleetwood Mac song, It's is that what you want? Apparently not. You only get to go your own way if it's the same way that Gavin's going. And that pretty much sums up the far left in this country. I'm shocked and disappointed, and I don't know why. I mean, it's so naked now. It's so obvious what's going on, and the excuses are coming up with them are just pathetic. I mean, you feel insulted. It's like, what do you think I'm going to believe that? You think is that the best you can do? You think I'm that dumb? Apparently so. So I wanted to say, by the way, it does not appear, I just checked a little bit ago, that we are yet experiencing any World War III kinds of things. I'm sure you heard about it. It's seen on the internet. So there's that good. Actually, it looks to me like Iran is not really crazy about escalating this situation. I mean, like I said before, their military, in terms of capability, is not anywhere near Israel. And by the way, if you want to see what's an interesting thing, take a look at the size of Iran, and then try and find Israel on the map. It's pretty small. It's about 1,100 miles, I think. Some of those drones had to fly. There was an interesting piece, by the way, out of that drone attack this week that I thought was something that kind of went by people. But one of the things they did in Israel was they somehow blanked out or jammed the GPS signals over the country. Because a lot of these drones, as you guess, and certainly the cruise missiles, have GPS locators in them that helps them navigate. Because what you want to do is you don't want to fly them really high. They fly relatively low. And they follow geographical contours, and they're programmed in there. And they don't know where they're at, but the satellite tells them where they're at. And so that assists them in getting to their destination. If the GPS is out, then they're just pretty much fire and forget. They're like a V2 in World War II. So that was a smart thing to do, but I'm curious how they did it. There was no mention how they did it. He just said, oh, yeah, they've taken the GPS out over, really? Oh, they stopped the satellites? What are they doing? Is that jamming? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just too interested in stuff like that. But I thought that was pretty fascinating because by doing that, they really made these things much less able to evade their jets. And, it's not easy to shoot down some of these relatively slow-moving drones if you're in a fighter jet that's moving really fast. I mean, you can understand how that would be. If you're trying to do something, say you're driving a car at 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to do something alongside the road that's going 20 miles an hour, how much time do you have to react to that when there's that big a disparity in speed? A lot of these drones don't go all that fast. That's one of the things, that they're flying low and slow compared to like a fighter jet. So it's a difficult job. And I'm just kind of wondering, what ammunition that they're using, what munitions I should say. Obviously, they're using missiles. They look like air-to-air missiles. But it would be interesting to see, exactly what they're doing, because it was working pretty good. During World War II, the RAF, when the Germans were shooting V-1s and V-2s, particularly V-1s, across the channel into England. And you remember the V-1 was the first missile, sort of guided missile. The V-2 was a little more guided missile. And, of course, we had to steal all their scientists so that we could have our space program, and the Russians stole the other half of them. But anyway, what they would do is they would fly up to these missiles, and they weren't that much they went much faster than the plane, and they would physically bump them with the wing and tip them off course, and then they would crash. That's some pretty brave stuff, I had to say. Because, they were worried a little bit about if you started shooting them and they were to blow up too close to you or something, but they could fly by and disrupt the wing with their own wing and get them down. I read that someplace, and it was fascinating. Anyway, so that's what we have going on in the world so far. We'll see what happens. I mean, I noticed the stock market on Friday, crashed. For those of you with a 401k, it's all right. Just a few more years of working. That's about all it'll take. Thank you, Joe Biden. I mean, what's really pushing people is this lack of clear response or plan that we get out of things. I mean, can you believe what we've heard from the president about any of this stuff? Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you think we'd get some kind of, something to say, we're going to do this and we believe that, and, yeah, I'm not getting any of that. I mean, I think he's gone out for ice cream a couple of times. That's been about it. So that uncertainty about how we're going to participate in anything that happens here contributes to people wanting to sell their stock, right? I mean, that's the stock market is most sensitive to uncertainty. And so they had a lot of people flee, as they like to say, from tech stocks and stuff like that and into energy because something might happen in the Middle East, and defense stocks, which I'm beginning to think is never a bad investment the way things are going. If we're going to keep shipping stuff to Ukraine, and, of course, if we send something to Israel, and then it would be nice to backfill our own military that have been complaining for a while that they are low on ammunition. So I would think that some of those things would work. But it is a peculiar and unlikely time that we're in right now. Something else I want to talk about very quickly, just to keep you guys up on it. I put it on the webpage, too. It was called The Left's Plan to Sabotage Talk Radio and Local News. The Tides Foundation, which is predominantly funded by Soros, and then it distributes money to other non-profits. They've been distributing money to allow some of these entities to buy up local radio stations. I mean, they've tried everything they can to get talk radio off the air. I mean, how long have they tried it? They tried it since Rush Limbaugh became a national show. I mean, right after that. And how many times did they try and get the fairness doctrine in there? How many, so that you really didn't have a talk radio show? You had presenting one side of an argument, and then you had to turn around and present the other side of the argument. I mean, what's that about? I mean, don't people have some kind of freedom of expression? So they hadn't been able to do that. And they tried boycotts. I remember they boycotted Rush Limbaugh probably 3 times, I remember, and it wasn't successful, obviously. And one of the things that Rush had said was that a lot of these advertisers would go away when the boycott started, and then they would come. He said they'd come creeping back, a few months later, because the size of his audience didn't go down. I mean, your job as an advertiser is to get the word out to people. And if somebody has a huge audience, I mean, you're an idiot to ignore it, particularly if the product or service you're selling has something to do with, the demographic. So they didn't have any luck with that. So they're taking the final step, it looks like. They're just going to try and buy them. I don't know what they'll turn them into. I mean, nobody listens to progressive radio. How many times has that fallen through? Remember Al Gore tried to put a network up, and then there was one with, he was a South Dakota senator started this show. Gosh, I can't remember right now, but it was hilarious. They didn't get any callers. They didn't get, it was no ratings, nothing. So the Air America stuff, I mean, none of that. People don't want to listen to it. I mean, not enough to support it. So they're just going to buy it and then I guess turn them into, I don't know what, easy listening? Or just probably change the format to progressive? Or just do progressive news? I mean, when I see how many people in the Trump trial that say they get their news from TikTok or Google and Facebook, I mean, it's not a great idea to get it from New York Times. Some of them actually said they did that too. But I mean, what kind of news are they getting? I mean, a significant amount of these people being questioned said they got their news from one of these online social sites. Not even a regular biased news site, but some feed from that. And if it's TikTok, it's sculpted by the Chinese. I mean, it's their company pretty much. I mean, they pretend like that it's private. It's not a private company. There isn't a private company in China. Everything has to operate under the imprimatur of the government. So that's just a bunch of hot air. But that's pretty shocking, isn't it? You folks are different out there, by the way. You get your news a lot of places. When I talk to you, you guys are pretty up on this stuff. And you keep your ear to the ground, and you have to. That's one of the reasons we talk about things like these bills in the Colorado Senate, or the Colorado House, or wherever they're at the time. And I really want to tell people that aren't in Colorado to watch this, because this is the flapping of the little butterfly wings that begins to spread across the country. The left, if they hear something that some other progressive has done, they get all excited, start dancing around, their feet moving and everything, and they want to do it where they're at. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Happens all the time. And just because that thing that they want to do doesn't even seem like it makes any, not just sense about the argument, but it doesn't even fit in with, where they're trying to do it. Right? They're still going to do it. Because they want to look like they're heroes on the left. And don't forget, they have some pretty strange heroes. Elizabeth Warren, our wonderful senator, Massachusetts, this week was talking about how they need to have a resolution about genocide from Israel, and I think the World Court. I'd have to look at it again. I guess they don't actually understand what genocide is. We're not pretending that the casualties of innocent people are something to be made light of, but we're not even getting good numbers out of there. Most of the numbers you're hearing that are coming out about casualty figures from the Gaza area, from the Palestinians, is from Hamas. There's almost no independent reporting in there. Not that most of the reporters in the United States would be truly independent anyway, but we don't really know. We're just going along with what's being reported, and then it gets broadcast all over the place. It's amazingly unreliable stuff. If it were the politics of the situation were reversed, I don't think that these news organizations would believe a word of it. But it fits in their narrative, so they're broadcasting these things. It's an insult, really, to the American public who want news, who want to know things. Because, folks, as you know, without an informed population, you can't have a republic, a democracy, as they like to say. People have to know what's going on. And if you shade it, keep it from them, or lie about it, or transmit a lie about it, you're not doing your job. But by the way, I don't want the government to decide what's disinformation either.
Hi, folks. Thanks for listening.
Let's pick it out.
Listen, if you'd like to listen to more and you want to maybe perhaps have someone else listen to our podcast, you can do so either by going right to our webpage, politicalviking.com, or therickWagnerShow.com. Both of them take you there. You can get links right directly to our podcast, or you can hear our podcast on Podbean, on iTunes, and Spotify, and a couple others. So you can find us. We appreciate it if you do. And if you've heard the show, you want somebody else to hear it, that's a good way to send it to them. Thanks for listening.